Good evening. I'm going to go ahead and get started because I'm going to go over a few introductory remarks before we have our speaker for the evening. But before I do that, I just want to thank you all for coming today. I know it's like, oh, should I just go home and have dinner or should I go to the Stem Cell Center? And thank you for making the decision to come here and be with us this evening. We very much appreciate it. So I'm going to do just a few introductory comments about the Stem Cell Center. So before I get too deep into that, I just want to say thank you to the people who organize these events, these community lectures. It's actually not me. Oh, and by the way, my name is Lisa Flanagan. I'm one of the faculty here in the center. I'm in the Department of Neurology. And I have a joint appointment in biomedical engineering. But I don't organize this. This is organized by Brian Cummings. He's our community outreach chair. And then Abby here in the center is just a huge force to make sure that this whole thing happens. And then UCI Media, we thank them as well because they come and help us out with this when we do these community lectures. So I want to talk just a little bit about, how the science goes, especially for like stem cell science and things that we think about that we want to, move into translational realms. How does that kind of happen? And it all is sort of these advances that we think of that end up helping human health. They start with places like UCI, with universities like UCI, and groups of scientists like we have here in the Stem Cell Center. So if we think about how much impact the research that happens at universities has on, development of new therapeutics and things like that, we can just look at these numbers. This is over a particular year. There were so many patent applications and patents that were awarded based on research that came out of universities. So it's really a driving force to take some of these basic science findings and turn them into products or therapies or things that will impact human health. So that happens here in our center. Oops, I think I went too far. This is just, well, anyway. I don't know why that's doing that. These were not my slides, so I'm just going to do that. If you look really quickly, you can see these various companies that have come out of research that is here in the center. So, they're secretive. We don't want to show them for too long. But anyway, we're really happy that there's that kind of pipeline moving from these basic studies into products that can help people. And so if there are certain things that we have built into the center that help to make that possible. And one of those is our Alpha Clinic for cell and gene therapy. And that's run by Dr. Daniela Boda. And this group has made such a difference in terms of how we're able to take our basic science discoveries, bring them into the initial clinical trials to check for safety, and then the next parts of the clinical trials where we check for efficacy. So is this particular treatment having an impact on the disease? And then finally, we hope that these get incorporated into standard of care to treat various diseases and injuries that affect people. And so there are a lot of trials through our Alpha Clinic, and it's been growing. So I think that's really, for me, that's really astonishing how much it's grown since 2019, and this graph goes through 2022. So we've had a big increase in the clinical trials that are being run through the Alpha Clinic here in this building. So right now we have more than 20 disease indications that are being addressed by clinical trials. We have some critical partnerships, and particularly with the Long Beach VA, the Veterans Administration there, Children's Hospital of Orange County, and then University of California, Riverside, their health system. They're all part of our group here for this Alpha Clinic, and that's been a really important group of strategic partnerships for us. So the other thing that we're really excited about is our new GMP facility. So that's GMP stands for Good Manufacturing Practice. And the key thing when we think about that is, okay, so we're scientists and we're working in our labs and we're doing something with cells, but if you think about how do we move that out of the lab into like clinical practice, there's a lot of steps that have to happen in between. And one of the key steps is having a way to manufacture the cells so that there's enough to run a clinical trial. I mean, when we're doing them in our labs in a dish, it's just this tiny little grouping of cells. But if you think about some sort of a stem cell therapy or other therapy for people, you have to have enough cells for the clinical trials, which could be run not only here, but across the rest of the United States. So how are you going to have that large group of cells, and how are you going to make sure the cells are good and are, having the characteristics that you need them to have to treat that disease process? And so one of the key things then is to have a facility that can manufacture this large amount of cells. And so you can see some pictures on the left. We have this new facility, and it's run by Roberta Marino, who is our new manager of this. And you see the person in the hazmat suit. That's to make sure that there's no cross-contamination of cells as they're preparing the different groups of cells in different rooms. But we're really super excited about this, and we're actually going to have a grand opening in a couple of weeks on May 22nd. That will be our grand opening for this new GMP facility. So lots of exciting things are happening here, and we're glad to be able to share them with you. And so now I'm going to do a quick introduction for our speaker for tonight. I'm really happy to introduce Asuka Eguchi. She's an assistant professor in the physiology and biophysics department here at UCI. Her lab focuses on muscle diseases, and particularly heart and cardiac muscle. And as well as that, she also focuses on neuromuscular disorders and the use of gene therapy to correct muscle defects. She uses stem cells to study human disease to try to identify new therapeutic options. Before coming to UCI, she completed her PhD training at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, which is really kind of a stem cell hub. There's a lot of great scientists there working in the stem cell space. So I think that was probably a great place to get wonderful foundational knowledge in stem cell biology. She then moved on to do a postdoctoral fellowship at Stanford University with Helen Blau, who's a luminary in the field of muscle research. So that's also a fantastic place to do training. She has numerous publications, and in addition to that, she has 2 patents. So she's already, on the way to moving her research, like we were talking about earlier, from some of the basic science studies to something that could eventually be applied to human health. As a new assistant professor, she's already garnered significant funding for her research program, including a prestigious NIH K01 Career Development Award. She's delivered scientific lectures across the United States, and I'm really happy that we have a chance to hear her presentation today. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Flanagan, for that very kind introduction. And I am excited to talk to you today about gene therapy strategies for muscle diseases. And so here are some examples of muscle diseases, and highlighted here in black are examples of muscle diseases where there are genetic mutations that directly affect the muscle. And then there are types that affect the nerves that innervate the muscle, and those are highlighted here in red. And then sometimes there are types of diseases caused by enzymes that help the muscle function properly. And all of these diseases are not necessarily caused by the lack of a protein being expressed. Sometimes it's caused by, for example, in the case of FSHD, there's too much protein being expressed. And so today I will be focusing on gene therapy, which is a replacement transfer therapy. So these 4 disorders here have clinical trials that are ongoing to replace the gene that is mutated in these patients and then restore the protein, or at least the protein's function for these diseases. So what is gene therapy? It is often delivered by adeno-associated virus, and so AAV is it does not cause disease in humans, but we can use it as a delivery mechanism to deliver genes to patients. And